What's going on, guys? Jose here. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Weather's been really crap lately. Like, it's been raining and just miserable for the past like week and a half now. So really haven't been out a whole lot. Haven't really caught much. Haven't done a whole lot. I mean, you could see this is the bed of the truck from rain last night. It's been absolutely pouring rain. It's clear right now, so that's why we're doing this intro right now, but it's supposed to get pouring rain again. But anyways, today's video is a little bit different. The day Elvis and I recorded, did the video about the 94-pound Wahoo that he got with Claire, we also sat down and had a conversation about conservation. Now, that's something that, you know, specifically for Wahoo and pelagic fish like that, and that's something that we've been wanting to talk about for a long time, and we've seen, you know, basically go ignored amongst the rest of social media. So, you know, this is a really interesting conversation that Elvis and I had regarding the conservation of Wahoo and other pelagics like mahi, and also discussed how fishing offshore for Wahoo was, you know, before the boom of social media. You know, when Elvis first brought his boat up here from the Keys and when we started really getting into them together, and then how it kind of progressed to where it is now. We went over some really interesting topics, you know, regarding conservation of Wahoo and, you know, people's reaction, people's motivations to fishing and why people like to get into fishing. So make sure you stay tuned. Leave a comment down below if there is anything, you know, you'd like us to address in a future video, or just, you know, something you'd like to add to the conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Alright, continuing with our video about Wahoo previously and fishing, Wahoo fishing, how it was and how it is now. Claire kicked us out of the house because we've been talking for 2 hours basically, so we're relegated to sitting outside. Shout out to Claire for letting us use her house as a recording studio, though. Much appreciated. So let's talk about how Wahoo fishing was when you first brought the boat up from the Keys, you know?
Well, I probably said this somewhere in that video that, you know, Captain Chase really got me going on my boat. You know, I fished on his old Cape Horn many times, so I kind of knew.
Cape Horn? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that was the real rival.
Oh really? I didn't know
this
that.
Real rival now. That was the real rival.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was Cape Horn.
Yep.
Nice boats. So Chase taught you a whole lot. Chase taught me a good bit too.
Yeah, I've just quick scenario. I've fished for Big Wahoo and Blue Marlin down island for almost 9 years now. So, but before all that, I met Chase in the neighborhood, and he really put me on a fast track to catch him in the 561.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing down island, Southern Caribbean, way different than fishing here.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to keep those two separate for you.
Yeah. So I guess since I've never fished down there, but I fished up here a lot with you, you know, from what I remember, there was nobody out there on the water. You would go on a weekday, even on a weekend, there'd be a handful of boats, you know.
And it was the same guys. You knew everybody.
Yeah, it was always
there.
the same boats regularly. You know, it wasn't new boats, people you didn't know. And we used to, frankly, we used to get a whole lot more bites.
Yeah.
Especially on the surface baits. We would get a lot more bites on the surface than we do now. We used to get a lot more outrigger bites because there was a lot less boat traffic, so the fish were sitting up on the surface a lot more willingly. You know, and you were able
I agree.
You were able to fish your baits farther back without risk of getting run over. You know? Anything you'd like to add specifically to that in this area?
Well, there's just so much, you know.
Well, I guess just
so
key topics.
for me personally, when we were fishing Wahoo on the real rival,
Mm-hmm.
the Cape Horn rival,
Mm-hmm.
there was no Facebook, there was no social media. I remember Chase brought an actual camera with him.
Really?
Every single trip.
Huh.
He had an actual film camera.
Film camera.
A film camera in the case, couldn't get wet.
Huh. Look at that.
So that was the big deal back then. But you know, those guys, there was a couple older guys in my neighborhood that was really putting a hurting on the Wahoo. I mean, mean, we're talking every single trip, bring back a 30, 40, 50 pounder. That was the norm back then.
Yeah.
And what happened was that somewhere along the lines, Wahoo really started to get, what's the word?
Popular.
Yeah, popular, or a target put on them.
I personally think people like Darcizzle mentioned, especially this area, a lot, because Darcizzle is from this area, like probably 15 minutes from our house. She lives, and she launches at we actually saw her today. We went this morning offshore, got a little mahi for dinner, but yeah, we saw her offshore today, this morning, and she really, advertised this area and really put this area's name on the map, and with that brought a lot of attention and a lot of people, because people saw these videos. It's actually a video, I don't know if you guys had seen the last video that we just filmed maybe 10 minutes ago of the story, his 94-pound wahoo, but he mentioned a wahoo that we caught New Year's of 2016. A week later, Darcizzle went with Captain Chase.
Yeah.
And she filmed a video on his boat.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
They caught like a 35, 40-pound wahoo.
No, it was almost 50.
Was it really? It was big.
On the kite.
Yeah, it was on a kite. And as Chase was gaffing the fish, pulling the fish in,
you could see us.
You could see us in the background just creeping by. So
that was a big fish.
That was a good one.
It wasn't as big as ours, but it was a big fish.
It was a good one. We saw it being pulled over the rail. Yeah, so people like her really advertised it and specifically mentioned this area and had zero secrecy. Like, as you've seen with us, we have a lot of secrecy and, hide important details that other people could use to catch the fish the way we do, right? So people, when that happens, people find out about those important details. What did you use? Where? When? Tide? Current? All those details. And so they started to go out and do that on their own and try it on their own. Maybe, sure, the first year that they did it, it wasn't very successful. But 2 years later, 3 years later, they maybe got lucky. They caught a couple fish and they posted on social media, hey, I caught this fish. And it's kind of just a snowball effect, if you will.
And the problem that I see with what you said is that it's more of a look at me, bragging.
Yeah.
Look how cool I am. What kind of t-shirt sponsors can I get?
Yeah.
How many likes can I get? Wahoo fishing should never ever be about that.
Fishing in general, not just wahoo, just in general, should never be about that. Should never be about posting a picture just to get likes and stroke your ego.
So then, you get into the I'm not going to say the name of the charter fleet, but there's a charter fleet with 5 or 6 boats down south.
Mm-hmm.
That really, I remember I was fishing. I don't want to say the exact year or the month, but I remember when those guys figured out how to catch wahoo. But the problem was that all those guys caught wahoo, but they were all 10 to 15 pounders.
Oh,
and boy, did they get off on catching, bragging that they crushed the wahoo. But damn, they're stuffing them in their drink coolers, for crying out loud.
Yeah, we've seen 5, wahoo this big shoved into a cooler. And it begs the question of,
what are you really fishing for?
At what point do you, as an angler, and do you get to the point where I care enough about these fish to want to release a juvenile so that it can grow up to be a 50, a 94 pounder?
Well, fun fact actually, Jose, you remember that one we caught a couple years ago?
Yeah.
We caught and released a 15 pounder. We got a ton of crap for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, come back when you're a 100 pounder. 2 years later, he came back. He was 94.
Close, very close.
Close, but I told him to come back. And we gave that fish 2 chances.
Gave the
one
fish
chance,
a good chance.
and we caught him twice.
Yep.
And what goes around comes around. If you want to sit there and pick on little wahoo and call yourself wahoo this, wahoo that, you want to be the best, pounding your chest, well, you're not going to do it by catching 10 and 15 pounders.
Oh, absolutely agree. It's the phrase, let them go, let them grow. people have been saying that, about snook, especially snook down here. Give the fish a chance to grow up. And, it seems like with wahoo, people, who are maybe new to the game want to catch one just to say they've caught one.
And I can't stand when people call them a renewable resource. That how they regenerate and repopulate. The problem is that 90% of the guys out here now that call themselves wahoo this, wahoo that, they're killing the babies.
Right.
So when you're killing the babies here, they never reach adulthood to reproduce. Yeah, they are renewable in a way that they'll spawn, they'll create more. But if you kill all the babies, you don't have the middle-aged wahoos, the 30 to 50 pounders that breed.
Right.
So now you've completely gotten rid of a whole generation of fish.
Right.
So, who's coming up behind the big ones once the big ones are gone?
Yeah.
Nothing. So what we have right now is a serious wahoo, I like to call it wahoo inflation. And the simple definition of inflation is you have too many goods chasing too few items. And that's exactly what's going on today. And it's not because of them putting food on the table. It's 90% of self-fame and bragging about what you've done.
And that comes back to people who advertise and first started really posting about them 2015, 2016,
And we want you to be proud of your catch and all.
Yeah,
I'm all for everybody being proud of your catch.
You go and you catch a nice fish, go for it.
But there comes to a point where you start catching all these little fish, and it's like you're calling yourself wahoo this, I don't want to say the names, wahoo this, wahoo that.
Right.
Claiming you're the king, this, that, and the other.
It comes to a point where, are you doing it for the fame, or are you doing it because you genuinely enjoy the fishing?
But you're also picking on little fish.
Right, and that it boils down to, do you care enough about the fish population and the environment to where you want to let that fish have another chance at life before
and
you
it
kill
really it really showed me who was and who wasn't when we caught that wahoo. Now it's the smallest one we've caught on my boat.
There's a little guy, 10, 15 pounds.
And it was so cool to watch that thing swim away. That how many comments we got saying, "Oh, if it has eyes, it dies."
Right, like
every wahoo's a dead wahoo. The little ones taste better.
Right. It's satisfying to see that you can safely release juvenile fish like that and let them grow up and come back and catch them when they're later.
I told like I said, I told him, come back when you're a 100-pound wahoo. Right. See you later.
Right. So that's kind of how we're at right now. Not to get off too far on a tangent, but that's kind of where it seems like we're at, here in 2020, where people just want to catch them just to catch them. They don't care how big it is, how small it is. It's dying, And I think we need.
I've seen wahoo. Just to put it in perspective, so you understand how small we're talking. I've seen wahoo laid out on the dock, where they are the size of 1.5 bar jacks. And a bar jack are those annoying, pesky fish you catch under weed lines that are about 14 inches. Yeah. So we're talking. I think there's a size limit on wahoo.
I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's 24 to the fork. They fall under the mackerel category.
Possibly. I'm not sure.
But
they're not too regulated.
you want to kill a 20-inch wahoo. What are you going to get out of that? A sushi roll?
Yeah.
When you could let them grow and create 10,000 new little wahoos.
Right. And I don't know. I think we need to have a conversation about wahoo regulations, and also mentality of anglers to say, you know what, I'm going to let this fish go so that it has a chance to grow up. The same thing happened with snook however many years ago when all the people were killing all the snook. There were no snook left. And they said, you know what, we need to let these fish have a chance to grow. And they enforced slot sizes. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult with a wahoo, but the conversation needs to be raised about how to more ethically care about those populations. Otherwise, they'll get wiped out. And it's something that boils down to: do you care enough about the fish in the environment? Claire, the lights. Thank you. Yeah, we've probably had some terrible lighting, but thank you for Claire for providing us the recording facility. But I genuinely think a conversation needs to be had about enforcing stricter regulations, on Wahoo, and also teaching anglers who want to go out and post a cool picture what it's like to actually care about the fish, you know? What it's like to see a fish swim off, live, and realize you're going to catch that thing when he's bigger, and then when he's ready to die, then he'll be killed.
You know, what goes around comes around.
Right.
You let the little ones go, you'll catch the big ones.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right. So that's a pretty, you know, because to bring it back to the discussion of 2020 versus then, we don't really get, you know, as many as we used to, you know, and you talk to guys like Chase, like Chris, who we've mentioned before, a lot of the guys who've been fishing for a long time, and it gets harder and harder every year, it seems like, because the little ones don't get a chance to grow. So
they're smaller and smaller and fewer and fewer
yep.
every single year.
Yep.
And I have some of the older guys I fish with down south, like my boss. He's always taught me to create a good logbook. And you know, we do catch big fish every now and then, but if you want to talk about numbers, I mean, it's constantly going down, 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 down. And I also have a separate logbook of who's catching what.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand the whole picture.
That's a good idea.
You know, I don't know if people know it or not, but I have a giant calendar with everything on it from long time ago, and logs, and you know, that's how you build information and data.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
So,
absolutely
you know,
correct.
When you ask me what I caught in 2013 in the month of February on this day in this cold front, I could go back there and tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that we're not seeing the fishery improve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes, Claire and I just did catch a big one, but
it feels like an oddity almost, you know, compared to the typical trends of smaller and fewer. Right. So I guess a good lesson learned now is that given the whole impact of social media on fishing, it's really important to, I like to say,
conservation is key.
Well, conservation is huge, and something that really needs to be mentioned in the discussion of Wahoo. You know, just like snook, tarpon, redfish, in any other big game fish, you know. For some reason, offshore fish don't really get the same level of conservation treatment as inshore fish do, and I never understood why. You know, why would you not apply the same level of conservation to a mahi or a wahoo as you would a snook or a redfish? You know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
A wahoo, I could see the point where
a big wahoo, good luck releasing that.
You know,
safely.
you can't lip a wahoo.
Right,
it's
that's
no
true.
secret.
That's true. But you could still flip a 20-pounder.
Yeah, and you know, mahi fishing, you don't need 40 fish.
Right.
For crying out loud, we caught one today that was 24, 25 to the fork, and we have enough for 4 people.
Right. You know, it's
you know, how much do you need?
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, how much do you need, and where do we start applying conservation to these conversations here and saying we really need to think about the ethicality, if that's a word, ethicalness of killing a 5, 10, 15-pound wahoo. And second of all, I think really questioning why we're into fishing. Are we doing it because we enjoy posting on social media, and we want people to recognize us, or do we want it to do it because we genuinely care about the fish and the environments that we're fishing in? And
well, I would say for mine, I don't know if you're asking me a question or talking. Is that a question?
It's a rhetorical question.
Okay, so I would answer that for me is that, you know, I've been doing it for so long now that I don't really know anything else.
That's an honest answer.
And you know, it's really great to go through life, me especially, becoming a captain, and starting from freshwater fishing on the Whaler to where I could say I put all my friends on clown knife fish. Okay, boom. Everybody in the album of my friends clown knife fish under their belt. Now I can say the same about wahoo. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I told Claire, I said, you know, you're the last person out of our friend group that I haven't caught a wahoo yet. Mm-hmm. And I said, as soon as we catch one, I'm going to retire. So, what way to go out, you know? 94-pounder, now I'm in retirement.
Oh, well, we're still going fishing then, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're not wahoo fishing anymore.
Oh, so we're going back to bass fishing then?
Yeah, bass fishing,
Okay.
crappie, you know.
We're going back to the clowns. Hey, Bill Dupree, get out of here. We're taking the spots back. But
Oh, that boy.
that's a whole nother conversation. So with that said, you know, I think we covered all the main points that we wanted to for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. You know, it's not as much graphic, you know, action and, you know, fish going nuts, whatever, but it's important conversation to have, and I think
nobody's brought up, and we've been in the game long enough to see it trend down,
right.
down.
We think no one really, with any sort of large social media presence, has really mentioned or any of these talking points really.
Nobody has.
Yeah, so we think it's a really important conversation to have, and we really hope you guys genuinely enjoy this conversation and spread the word, and really try to promote the conservation of offshore pelagic fish.
You know, and I'll never forget letting that little one go because it was such a rush. You know, how many people kill wahoo, but how many people say they catch the wahoo and then let him go?
Nobody.
Maybe there's some guys in Bermuda that do it, tag and release.
Right. Yeah, maybe a tag and release.
I'm trying to think off the top
cool,
of my head. There's a couple older guys in southern Bahamas, but they're doing that for tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a different breed of wahoo.
Right. But yeah, we really hope you guys enjoy this conversation. You know, make sure you share it with friends and anyone you say, hey, you know, check this conversation out. I think it's something that you really should listen to and provide input into. So,
and you know, I'm probably the last of the old guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm the youngest old guy out there. But you know, don't self-promote yourself by calling yourself wahoo this, wahoo that. I'm a wahoo this, when your whole Instagram is filled with 10 and 15 pound, maybe a 25 pounder.
He's low-key flaming people who want to be popular on social media, but I understand and low-key wholeheartedly
No, they know,
agree.
and I tell it to their face. You know, they know.
Yeah, but
I'm not afraid of a good time.
Oh yeah. But with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you drop a big old thumbs up. Sub to the channel if you're new, and make sure you comment down below if you guys have any other topics like this that you guys would like us to cover. You know, it's something very important to discuss.
Yeah, from bass to blue marlin.
Yeah, whatever. We'll sit down and discuss it because we've caught a lot of fish over the years, and
it's amazing we don't have any sponsors. But we don't do it for them.
You're the one who doesn't want to do social media, and even then, I mean, I used to go out with an old ugly stick
I don't need
and
to
catch
be under
fish.
pressure for a couple free T-shirts.
I used to go out and catch fish with a beat up old ugly stick. Remember that thing?
We caught a lot of sailfish on that.
I used to murk fish with those old ugly sticks.
Sailfish, we caught a wahoo on that. Nick's brother got a wahoo on that on the bait runner.
Yeah, and the little old ugly stick I used to go bass fishing with. I used to murk the fish on that rod. So until next time, guys.
So you want to be a wahoo fisherman?